Welcome to Full Court Press. I'm joined by Charlie and Fatmir, and we have a special edition video for you today. We're talking about All-Star Weekend, mainly the All-Star game itself and who got snubbed. This year, there are quite a few snubs, but then again, this was arguably one of the toughest years to name who would be an All-Star. And there's some pretty big names that got snubbed, some that have been multiple time snubs, and some that were former All-Stars that didn't make the All-Star game this year. To start us off, the number one player that a lot of people are talking about is Trae Young. With Trae Young, he averages about 27 points per game, and I think just under 11 assists per game as well. He's the league leader in assists. He's really the only reason why Atlanta is even relevant, and I think this is the third year in a row where he's been snubbed from the All-Star game. What do you guys think about that?
I personally think he should have made it over Brown or Maxey. Not saying Brown maybe is an undeserving All-Star. Maxey's definitely deserving, but if you're leading the league in total assists, or honestly, like almost any stat,
any
but like
stat.
assists is a really big one, and his usage rate is probably higher than Maxey too. I think, especially Brown and even Maxey, I think he should have been an All-Star over them.
I agree. Trae Young was snubbed. I don't think Jaylen Brown should be an All-Star at all. I understand why he's an All-Star because Boston is the best team in the league. They're the one seed. No one's close to them in the East, but at the same time, they have four players that have an argument for an All-Star spot. Jaylen Brown's dropped off from last year. His numbers aren't anything impressive. He has definitely looked worse. Trae Young literally clears him in the stat department.
Yeah.
The only reason why Atlanta's in the play-in right now.
It's the only reason Atlanta's really been relevant for the past 6 years as well.
Yeah, Trae Young, he's been going crazy this season. It feels like the Bradley Beal situation in Washington.
Yeah.
When,
except the Wizards were much worse.
So like when Bradley Beal was averaging 33 and he didn't make it, something like that. Yeah, it feels exactly like that. And we've said this on the channel before. Trae Young is one of the most disrespected players in the entire league, and it just shows up again and again because, well, he's getting disrespected as usual. I think Jaylen Brown's really the only person, in my opinion, that should be an All-Star that made it over him. But with the two new spots opening up because Joel Embiid's injury and Julius Randle's injury, if Trae Young doesn't get one of those, yikes.
Yeah, if Trae Young doesn't replace Randle or Embiid, I think that there'll need to be serious conversations about the All-Star game because I think at that point it's just obvious that something's going on because he definitely should be an All-Star, especially if he's going to replace someone.
Yeah,
at that point.
I feel like they don't usually do reserve injury replacements with like a big man injured to a guard. Like they usually try and bring in another big man. So I'm not actually going to be shocked if he still doesn't make the All-Star team, especially after the shit they pulled with Doc Rivers. So
yeah, that was kind of.
Oh yeah, he's the coach, right?
Yeah,
because Joe Mazzulla was the coach last year, and they don't want to do it back to back.
Like give it to literally any of the other top 5 coaches. Like
you
just 3 other guys.
Yeah, you give it to Tibbs.
Yeah,
for
or
sure.
maybe Bickerstaff.
Yeah, like there's no reason.
Yeah, it's gonna if they do two bigs, it's gonna be like either Jimmy and Porzingis or Porzingis and Jarrett Allen.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad.
It's gonna be nasty.
Like I saw a graphic that was showing 5 potential All-Star replacements, and it was Trae Young, Jimmy Butler, Kristaps, and you had all their stats. And then you have for Jarrett Allen, it's 3rd in field goal percentage, and for Derek White, it's his team's record.
Yeah, the Derek White discourse on
Derek White is
absolutely atrocious.
Great team basketball player. Definitely helps teams win games, but an All-Star is a huge stretch.
He is what I like to call an elite role player.
I think he's getting the Alex Caruso treatment. When he was in LA, everyone Caruso, etc. Derek White's kind of getting that from the Boston fans right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that would be my comparison. But back to Trae Young, I think the past 3 years that he hasn't made the All-Star game, his numbers have also increased each year, which makes it even crazier that he isn't an All-Star. I remember seeing a tweet specifically showing his points per game increasing each year and his assists increasing each year.
He's replicating his numbers pretty much and not just getting disrespected. But
the only thing that's really gone down is his efficiency, but it's not by that much. Well, last season was, but not this season.
But I feel like his team has also gotten a bit worse since their conference finals run. And,
yeah, which are honestly, like, I feel like they've done the necessary things to shake up their roster, and it just hasn't worked out
it
at
hasn't
all.
worked out.
I thought the Murray trade was good for them.
I didn't like it originally, but it is what it is.
You were right. It's not good. It's not good. So.
It felt weird. Like, the fit in general felt weird.
I just thought if he took more of a backseat on offense and just guarded the best player, but still scored like 20 a game, they'd be all right.
Yeah.
They're not.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I think that the Sacramento Kings had two snubs, to be honest. De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. I believe Sabonis was All-NBA third team last year.
I think they both were.
They both were. And they're a top 5 seed in the West. Sabonis is 5th in MVP voting, a triple-double machine. He's definitely a double-double every night. And the fact that he did not make it over Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is more of just an offensive player more than anything. I think Sabonis isn't the greatest defender either, but he does a lot more playmaking just all around. He impacts the game more than Karl Anthony Towns does. And I think that he should have, at least one of them should have made the All-Star game. Fox had a lot more competition. The guards are stacked in the West. But I think that if record were to play a big role as to why Trae Young didn't make it over certain players, I think that it should have helped De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis' case in making the All-Star game. What do you guys think about that?
I agree. Sabonis is averaging career highs in almost every stat that's important to him. His point to him. He's not a defender. Let's be honest. He's not a defender. But I mean, he's tied his career high for blocks per game, so that's cool. But he's 0.4 points away from his career high average of points per game. He is averaging a career high in rebounds with 13 rebounds. He's leading the league in rebounds per game. He has a career high in assists with 8 assists per game. And like Alvin said, top 5 in MVP voting. But let's give it up for Karl.
60 points, dude.
And a
loss.
I understand that the Timberwolves are tied for the number 1 seed with the Thunder right now, and that's why they gave Karl Anthony Towns the spot. But at the same time, the Kings are fifth or sixth right now, and they don't have anyone representing them. And like, let's look at Karl Anthony Towns' averages, because I know they're nothing special.
Plus, Sacktown is like, they have a huge fan base. Like, they love the Kings.
But outside of Sacramento, nobody. There's no Kings fans. Like, that's their biggest problem.
So yeah, with Karl, not getting KAT today. He's Karl.
Big per.
Big per. He's averaging 22.7, 8.6, and 3.1. Yeah, that's an all-star for sure.
Big per, baby.
That man is averaging he's barely averaging more points than Sabonis, and he's averaging worse at literally everything else. Like, what are we doing? This is Adam Silver's NBA. And then De'Aaron Fox. Let's not forget De'Aaron Fox.
He's top 10 in scoring too.
He is averaging 27.5 points per game, 5.5 assists, 1.8 steals.
Yeah.
And he's shooting 38% from 3 on 8 attempts. Like, the man has improved insane amount this season.
He's one of the few two-way guards too, I might add.
Yeah, one of the few two-way superstar guards. It's basically just him and Shea.
Yeah.
And but Karl, let's give it up for 22.7 points per game. Karl.
Headed back east. Fadmir's got an interesting pick for this one. All right, Fadmir, who do you think got snubbed?
We're heading across the border to Canada. For me, my personal pick is Scottie Barnes. He's taken a massive jump this season in general, especially after the sophomore slump he had last season. He jumped up from 15 points per game to 20 points per game, from 4.8 assists to 5.7 assists, and from 6.5 boards to 8 boards. And he's doing it rather efficiently. Like, he's shooting 48% and shooting 36% from 3 on 5 attempts. And last season, he shot 28% on 3 attempts. So, big improvements from Scottie Barnes. And like I said earlier, I don't think Jaylen Brown should even be an all-star in general. He's averaging about 22 points per game. A lot of what made him super impressive the season before has kind of gone down pretty drastically. And I think Scottie Barnes has just showed out this season in general, especially now that Pascal's gone. He'll be able to show out a little more. He's been kind of going in a slump recently, but this entire season he's been pretty insane, especially now that they're giving him the keys as the 1 option and as the point guard of their team. So Yeah, I think hopefully Scottie Barnes could somehow get a case from whoever's picking the replacements to be one of the replacements, him and Trae Young.
Scottie Barnes over if he didn't get the replacement.
Over Jaylen Brown, 100%.
Okay, so over Jaylen Brown.
I don't like Jaylen Brown.
I know you don't like Jaylen Brown.
I think he's overrated.
You still think Zach LaVine is better than him?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think Scottie Barnes can also go left. That might be something
he can
to talk about. Maybe we should put Jaylen Brown in the skills challenge, see how he does. But Charlie, you also had another pick for who got snubbed. Who do you think got snubbed this time?
Quick shout out, DeMar DeRozan's putting up like identical stats to Jaylen Brown. And there's definitely people who should be all-stars over both of them. But if we're gonna throw Jaylen Brown in there, give me Debo for the one time, dude. Keep him going. He might not get another all-star selection, dude.
If you agree with the people that we think should have been an all-star over others, give us a comment down below. Make sure to dunk on that like button. Number one thing you could do for the YouTube algorithm. Till next time. Peace.
Let's give it up for Karl.